In the situations so far for testing of hypothesis problems, we have considered that the random sample comes from a certain population. So, we have assumed the form of population to be say normal or say exponential, and then we want to test about the parameters of that population. For example, we want to test about the mean of a normal distribution, we want to test about the variance of a normal distribution, or we want to test about the scale parameter of an exponential distribution. So, here the situation is that we assume that the form of the distribution is known to us, only the parameters of the population are not known. However, there are other situations where we have a data and we want to know that from which type of population that data has come, and so that means we may be liking to estimate the population, that means the distribution, or we want to test about the distribution. So, here we will talk about the testing that a particular distribution is there, say capital F is equal to some f naught. So, for this situation an approximate test has been proposed, which is called chi-square test for goodness of fit. So, let us have the situation of the form. Suppose we are sampling from a distribution. So, let me write distribution function CDF say f x. Of course, there may be a situation where it depends upon certain parameters. So, we may write that thing which may depend upon a parameter, say theta. So, this theta could be having several components also. So, we want to test say h naught f x is equal to f naught x for all x against h 1 not h naught. Okay. That means, this is not true for some points at least, where f naught is a known CDF. That means, we want to test whether the data which has been collected comes from a given distribution f naught x. So, in the chi-square test for goodness of fit, the procedure is as follows. We follow the given procedure. So, divide the range of the distribution in k mutually exclusive and exhaustive intervals. Let us call them intervals as I 1, I 2, I k. So, now each value will fall exactly in one of the intervals, because they are mutually exclusive and exhaustive. Let us also assume that probability of x being in an interval I is pi I for I is equal to 1 to k. So, now each sample value falls in exactly one of the intervals. So, let us define the observed frequencies. Let O1, O2, OK be the respective observed number of observations in the intervals I1, I2, Ik. So, what we are observing? We are observing x1, x2, xn. Now, you see some of these xi's will belong to interval I1, some of the xi's will belong to interval I2 and so on. So, we make this breakup. Let O1 denote the number of xi's in the interval I1, let O2 denote the number of xi's in I2, let OK denote the number of xi's in Ik. Then O1, O2, OK, these are called observed frequencies of the data. So, now you see here, you have k categories, unlike binomial distributions where you have 2 categories, here you have k categories. So, if I find out the distribution of O1, O2, OK, this will become a multinomial distribution. So, we will write it in this form, then the vector O, that is O1, O2, OK, has a multinomial distribution n factorial divided by product of OI factorial, then product of pi I to the power OI, I is equal to 1 to k, where sigma of OI is n, sigma of pi I is 1. That is, pi I is the probability of the ith interval. Therefore, probability of OI is equal to small OI, that will be given by this multinomial function. Also, we will have from the properties of the multinomial distribution, expectation of OI, this will become equal to n pi I, we call it EI, okay, and variance of OI, that will become equal to n pi I into 1 minus pi I for I is equal to 1 to k. Let us take the case of 2 categories, then let us see how the test can be conducted. So, if k is equal to 2, then if I look at x 1 minus n pi 1, in place of this I will write O 1. So, O 1 minus n pi 1 divided by root n pi 1 into 1 minus pi 1. This is converging in distribution to normal 0 1. Okay. This is from the property of the binomial distribution, that the distribution of x minus n p divided by root n p q is asymptotically normal, that is the normal approximation to the binomial distribution. So, if we utilize that, because for k equal to 2, this multinomial has become binomial. Therefore, the distribution of O 1 is binomial n pi 1. So, O 1 minus n pi 1 divided by square root n pi 1 into 1 minus pi 1 is asymptotically normal distribution. So, if I take the square of this, then this is asymptotically chi-square distribution on 1 degree of freedom, because square of a normal distribution, standard normal variable is a chi-square variable. Now, O 2 is n minus O 1. This is for the case k equal to 2. So, you can easily see that if I write down O 1 minus n pi 1 square by n pi 1 plus O 2 minus n pi 2 square by n pi 2, then so here you substitute O 2 is equal to n minus O 1 and pi 2 is equal to 1 minus pi 1, then after simplification, because this will become 1 minus pi 1, we can take LCM and adjust the terms. this will give simply O1 minus n pi 1 square divided by n pi 1 into 1 minus pi 1. So, what we are observing that sigma O I, and this term I called E I square by E I is equal to 1 to, this is having asymptotically chi-square distribution on 1 degree of freedom. So, if we generalize this thing, in place of 2, if I write for a general k, the quantity, let me call it W, that is equal to sigma O I minus E I square by E I is equal to 1 to k. This is having asymptotically chi-square distribution on k minus 1 degrees of freedom. I am using L and D as for the asymptotic distribution here. So, if we want to test the hypothesis, if we want to test H naught f x is equal to f naught x, then we calculate E i's from f naught x, that is under the distribution f naught, what is the probability of the ith interval. So, that is pi I, and if I multiply by n, I will get E I. So, but of course, this is calculated from the known distribution, this one here. So, you can then consider the difference between the observed frequency and the expected frequency squared and divided by the expected frequency. So, you can see that if this hypothesis is true, then the differences between OI's and EI's must be small, and therefore, this term should be rather small. Therefore, by comparing with the tabulated value of a chi-square distribution on k minus 1 degrees of freedom, we can test whether H naught can be rejected or cannot be rejected. If it is not true, then these differences will tend to be large. So, the value of W will be large. So, the test H naught is rejected if W is greater than or equal to chi square k minus 1 alpha. Now, there may be a situation where f naught may not be completely known, that means, it may include certain parameter. If this includes certain parameter, then from the data we can estimate that parameter also, and then in place of E I we can say we are getting E I heads, and we can substitute there in case f naught x contains unknown parameter, say theta is equal to theta 1, theta 2, theta m, then we can estimate theta from the sample, and accordingly find pi I head is equal to probability x belonging to I head, that means, the estimate of this, and E I head is equal to n times pi I head. Then for large samples, E I heads will converge to E I in probability or with probability 1. So, we can use say W star, that is equal to sigma O I minus E I head square by E I head, I is equal to 1 to k. W star has asymptotic chi square k minus m minus 1 distribution. So, once again we can use test as that W star greater than or equal to chi square alpha k minus m minus 1. This is the rejection region. However, there are certain precautions one should take while using the chi square approximation. As the binomial approximation to the normal distribution is good when p is moderate, that means, it should not be close to 0 or close to 1. In a similar way, here the cell probabilities are say pi i's. So, if either of the pi i's is extremely small, that means, close to 0 or close to 1, then in that case the expected frequency of that cell will become either too small or too large. If it is too large, then for some other cell it will become too small. In that case, this approximation is not good. So, we have the following considerations. We should not, or we can say we should not have pi i's very close to 0 or 1. Similarly, expected frequencies should not be below 5. So, a practical consideration that has been done, that there may be a case that firstly we split the intervals without knowing the probabilities, but when we actually calculate the probabilities and find that the expected frequencies are below 5, then what we do, we can merge some adjacent intervals, so that the number of intervals becomes slightly less, but each cell frequency becomes more than 5. So, this is a practical approach that is used here. Let me explain this this test through certain examples. In a sale of say 300 units of an item, the following preferences for colors are observed for customers. So, it may be like certain item of the type, say for example, somebody is buying say car, or somebody is buying a say two wheeler. So, we look at the color of the car, for example. So, out of 300 customers, suppose we observe that brown, the colors available are brown, gray, red, blue and say white. Out of 300 customers, we find 88 prefer brown, 65 prefer gray, 52 prefer red, 40 prefer blue and 55 prefer white out of 300. Color preferences of customers. So, we want to test the hypothesis that all colors are equally popular. that means the customers have equal preference for each of the 5 colors. So, if we want to frame a hypothesis in the form of a test of goodness of fit, what we can do is the hypothesis is of the form that each cell has probability 0.2. So, let pi I denote the probability of ith color for I is equal to 1 to 5. There are 5 colors here. Then we want to test that each of the is 1 by 5. Now, based on this assumption, so here basically the cell or interval is actually the type here. So, brown is one type, gray is another type, red is another type, blue is another type, white is another type. So, this is again a multinomial situation, and here we are assuming the probabilities to be same in the null hypothesis. H 1 is that at least one inequality. So, on the basis of this we do the following calculations. We can calculate EIs. So, EI is n pi I. So, here it is 300 into 1 by 5, that is equal to 60. Each category has the same probability, and therefore, each category will have the same expected frequency also. So, on the basis of this, if we calculate W, that is sigma OI minus EI square by EI, I is equal to 1 to 5. Then this is equal to 88 minus 60, that is 28 square by 60 plus 65 minus 60, second cell, that is 5 square by 60, third cell is 52. So, it is minus 8 square by 60 plus 40 minus 60 is minus 20 square by 60 plus 55 minus 60 is minus 5 square by 60. So, the sum can be easily evaluated, it turns out to be 21.635. Now, there are 5 categories. We also notice that the expected frequency of each cell is more than 5. So, the chi-square assumption is valid. Therefore, we look at the value of chi-square on 4 degrees of freedom. Suppose I consider the value at say 0.05. Then from the tables of the chi-square distribution one can find this value is 9.487. We may even look at say chi-square 4.01, that is 13.28. So, you can see that the calculated value of W, that is 21.635, is bigger than this. So, H naught is rejected. That means, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that customers have preferences for the colors. You can see the raw data here. The observed frequency for brown is 88, which is almost more than twice the choice of blue color. If we see the choice of gray, that is much higher. The choice of red, blue and white is below. So, you can see that in specifically speaking, brown and blue, they cause major discrepancies here. Blue is say least favorable color and brown is the most favorable color here. In fact, if I have only 3 of these, then they look almost nearby 65, 52 and 55. That is, customers have color preferences. So, basically what we have tested is something like a discrete uniform distribution, and we conclude that the data does not follow a discrete uniform distribution. Let us take another example for a particular organism three types of genotypes A, B and C are possible. A theory suggests that they may be in the ratio say 1:2:1. Now, to test this hypothesis, to test this theory, a sample of 90 units is taken with the following results. So, genotypes A, B, C, it is observed that out of 90 units, 18 had genotype A, 44 had genotype B and 28 had genotype C. The total is 90. So, now we want to test whether the data supports the theory. So, for this once again we have three categories. The probabilities of each category, let me call it pi I. So, 1:2:1. So, this probability is 1/4, this probability is 2/4, that is half, and this probability is 1/4. So, expected frequency, this is observed frequency, we can actually do the calculations in the form of a table here. So, here you see if the probability of the genotype A is 1/4, the total number of units is 90. So, the expected frequency for that will be 90/4, that is 22.5. Here it will become 45, here it will become 22.5, that is total is 90. So, based on this one can carry out the calculations sigma OI minus EI square by EI, I is equal to 1 to 3. So, for example, here it will become 4.5 square divided by 22.5 plus 1 44 minus 45. So, 1 square by 45 and 28 by minus 22.5, that is 5.5 square by 22.5. So, one can look at these calculations, this turns out to be 2.26. So, one can easily compare with the chi-square value on 2 degrees of freedom. Suppose we look at 0.05, then this is 5.99, and of course, if I look at say chi-square 2 at 0.01, this is going to be larger than this. So, we cannot reject H naught, that means H naught, that is P A is equal to 1/4, P B is equal to half, P C is equal to 1/4 cannot be rejected. That means the data supports the theory that the genotype are in the proportion 1:2:1. Here one point about this calculation also, this formula which we have given here, sigma OI minus EI square by EI, one can actually have an alternative form for this. We can consider expanding this term. So, it is OI square plus EI square minus twice OI EI divided by EI. that is equal to sigma OI square by EI. Now, the next term here is EI and then summation. So, summation EI is actually n minus twice summation OI. So, summation EI is n and summation OI is also n. So, this becomes simply sigma of OI square by EI minus n, I is equal to 1 to k. So, this is an alternative formula for W star for W. Similarly, if I am considering W star, that is sigma OI minus EI head square by EI head, then once again this can also be written as sigma OI square by EI head square minus EI head minus n. Here degrees of freedom are k minus 1 and here the degrees of freedom are k minus m minus 1 if m unknown parameters are there. Many times this expression is easier to calculate.